Hi, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome to Rediscover, a space where we celebrate the childlike qualities that make up the essence of who we are while engaging with the world around us, both authentically and imaginatively.
Nothing is off the table here, and we talk a little bit...
or a lot.
About, well, everything.
Around here, we're always rediscovering, sharing empowering stories, and connecting our hearts and minds with every facet of life.
While we, of course, talk about the real stuff,
we invite you to be a part of the conversation as we broaden our perspectives, release limitations,
and grow to create our most joyful and fulfilling lives together.
So come along with us as we rediscover all the best parts of you
and bring a little bit of magic into your day. Hey everyone, welcome to 2022 and the very first brand new episode of the new year on Rediscover.
We are so happy to have you back, and we are so excited about today's episode. The end of this month is a little extension of our theme from back in November, incredible women doing extraordinary things. And today we are featuring one of the most incredible, positive, and relatable humans that we know, Hayley Morris. Hayley is a lifelong comedian from the UK turned content creator, and she shares videos about things that you and I will definitely relate to. We are so excited to share her story and her creations with you, and hopefully you'll find a new space to love and laugh on her corner of the internet.
Yeah, Hayley has such a unique and incredible take on all of these universal experiences that we all go through. She has a different cast of characters for each one that I think every single one of us can relate to because they are all parts of the human anatomy. And her whole take on life and these things that we all go through is just so clever and endearing and engaging and totally relatable. It's going to make you feel like you have a best friend across the pond and like somebody actually finally gets you and has been able to take all of these things that you've been thinking and feeling and bring them to life in just the most hilarious way.
Another thing we love about Hayley is that she's a former Disney cast member just like us. She used to work at the Rose and Crown in the UK Pavilion at Epcot as a cultural representative and left around the same time we did in 2020. So we all have that in common, as well as the love of laughter, hilarious videos, and of course, the universal experiences of being a human being. So join us today as we chat with Hayley. We are going to have a really great time.
Just a teeny tiny disclaimer before you listen. We do talk about the human anatomy on this episode, so we do mention the names of some body parts.
And here on Rediscover, we are in full support of normalizing talking about things such as the human anatomy or bodily functions. However, we did want to give you the heads up just so you can make the choice with what you're most comfortable with in the environment that you're listening in. So, with all that being said, without further ado, we are thrilled to introduce you to the one, the only, Hayley Morris. Hi, everyone. I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome back to this week's episode of Rediscover. We are going to kick off the year with such a fun interview. We have a dear friend back from our Disney days on the pod today, our amazing friend, Hayley Morris, who is a British comedian and content creator. And we are just so excited to learn about your journey over the past 2 years, especially, but even before that a little bit, to talk about what's been going on in your life over there. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's been really weird. I kind of feel like, I don't know, it's really strange. Sometimes you're kind of like, what happened in this pandemic? Is it all a dream? Am I going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be like, oh, I'm just, back where can it do? Things are normal. Super strange.
Oh my gosh.
I feel that.
Yeah. I think
know.
everyone's kind of got that weird feeling around them where they don't really know if life's real right now.
Totally agree. I know all three of us went through that during the pandemic. We all were at Disney and now we're all not
at Disney.
Nope. That's wild. Very much not.
Yeah. We've all really moved on from it.
Yeah, it rerouted us all, but I think the paths we're on now are just very interesting and unexpected, but I think that's kind of the fun of life in a way. To kick things off, Hayley, can you tell us in your own words and explain to our audience what you do and
maybe share an overview of the journey that got you to where you are today.
I always find what I do a bit harder to explain because there's so many different elements to it. But I personally would explain myself as like a digital comedian. I'm a comedy writer, a comedy actor, and a content creator. So I have like my fingers in many different pies, but all in that comedy sort of circuit, I guess. And I've been doing it for years, but it only really took off kind of 2020. Was it 2020? No, 2021. I'm so confused what year it is. Yeah, in 2021. Yeah, it kind of like exploded after, I mean, I was doing it for 10 years until it kind of took off. But yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah, I remember you used to do YouTube videos and podcasts, and like you've always been amazing at it. So I'm not surprised that it took off, but that's so cool.
Took a while.
Who or what was your original inspiration for pursuing comedy? How did you get into it in the first place?
It was my dad. My dad used to write a lot of sitcoms. He was like a really funny, just like he was very intelligent with his humor, and he used to write a lot of sketches when me and my brother were young, and he'd be like, hey, perform this. And I'll film it. And then it's just something that we had to like look back on when we were older and laugh at and be really embarrassed by. But I think that when I look back at why I got into this was very much my dad's influence. So yeah, basically my dad. And obviously he used to like put a lot of sitcoms on, and we really enjoyed it. And I always thought like, that's exactly what I'd like to do.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. I love that.
So this is super natural for you to just hop into what you do now, which is so cool.
Yeah, it just felt like a natural progression, I guess.
So we know you have a whole variety of interesting characters that you play. We know your first character was Brain. So what was the moment you kind of conceptualized this character for the first time?
I actually can't remember. I think because on YouTube I've been doing kind of stuff that I didn't know how to explain. This is like my thought process. I think when you do comedy and when you write stuff, it's very much you use your facial expressions to kind of show the audience like, this is what I'm thinking. When I was writing stuff, I remember years ago, I imagined myself in like a white room being inside my brain, but I never had like the production to be able to showcase what I was imagining. And then I had COVID in 2020 around Christmas, and I don't know if I was reading a book or something, but the idea suddenly came to me like, oh, intrusive thoughts, like that would be a really funny thing. So like have my brain there with me, telling me what to do, as if, I think as TikTok people started using objects, they're like their phone would be talking to them. And I was like, why could I not just have my brain talking to me as a separate character? And yeah, it kind of came from there. But putting that video out for the first time with Brain, and with it being a thought that I didn't think other people had, I was like, I'm going to be locked up. I was like, no one's going to relate. I'm going to be locked up. Everyone's going to be like, is she okay?
But then the exact opposite happened. And what you actually did was just like Jess and I were talking about this when we were talking about this episode. We were like, it's so crazy because she's literally just like physically embodying all of these things that we think and experience, but we don't know how to like name it or make it feel more relatable or just less uncomfortable. And yeah, that's incredible. That's just wildly creative.
It was so brilliant. I remember when you released that video, because I mean, obviously it was 2020. All we were doing at that point was we were on our phones, and I've kept up with you for years now on social media. And I remember you released that first reel. I saw it on Instagram and I was like, that is freaking funny because it's so relatable and so true. And I think that's what I love about every single one of your videos is they all are so relatable. And it's like, oh my God, I've literally thought that, or I'm not the only one who's thinking this, what I thought to be crazy thought, exactly like you said. And that's exactly, I think, why so many people are magnetized to you, because it's just, it makes you feel not alone. And I think people really love that feeling of belonging, even in your weirdness,
Yeah.
Well, I think for so long, everyone has kind of felt, I know for me, all the stuff that I talk about, and I mean, especially when it started with the intrusive thoughts and all those kind of things, I always thought, I'm not okay. Something's wrong with me. Like, why am I thinking this? Or why is this happening? And I nearly deleted that video so many times, but as soon as I got it out there and as soon as people related to it, I was like, oh my God, I bet you everything that I think and everything I do is exactly the same as everyone else. And as I've gone on, I'm sort of at that mindset now where I'm like, we're all exactly the same. Like, I genuinely think we all have exactly the same thought process, exactly the same kind of core, but we don't really want to admit it because it's like, if I admit it, I'm vulnerable. And if I admit it and other people don't feel the same, then I've just exposed myself as a weirdo. But we're all weird.
We are.
Yeah. So is that kind of how you started to think of the other characters and kind of like develop the whole ethos of your message?
Yeah, it's like, I think one of the mission statements I had when I first started doing this was, first of all, I want to make people feel normal. And then the second is I want to make people laugh. So as I had Brain, there were other characters that I thought, you know, I could talk about Brain, but it makes more sense to have them in there. And then, you know, those thoughts that we have in our brain, obviously I can make into it being that character talking. And, you know, it also adds for the humor when you have like a character that everyone's like not expecting to see and dressing them up weird. I was like, that, you know, adds a visual element of comedy. So yeah, it just made sense it was like a way of keeping people interested in surprising them with new things. Because I think if I just kept doing me and brain, it'd get to a point when people were like, okay, been there, done that. So yeah, I find it really exciting just being like, right, let's bring in this character and see how people react. And yeah, it just felt really fun.
So fun. Can you give us a little overview of your character lineup for everyone listening if they haven't watched it yet?
Okay, so obviously start with Brain, and then I introduced quite early on, but she didn't come back for a while, was Stomach, and then it was Butt, and then it was like, how can I take that further? So like Vagina, then there was like Bladder, Pee, Poop. It just went on and on, like boobs, nipples. I was like, I just need to keep bringing them in. And the more I talk about it, the more normal it'll be, and it'll be great.
Yeah, all the relatable characters. And congratulations, you're the first person who's ever said vagina on Rediscover. So that's a big
moment. Weirdly. But don't worry, because there's an episode idea that we had a while ago that like came out of a rant that I had. That I actually, from watching some of your videos, feel even more like inflamed about. And so we're going to be using that word again.
Yes, I'm so here for it. Do you know what? I was actually talking to someone. We're really going down that route now.
Yes, that's fine.
I was talking to someone the other day. He's a doctor, and he makes videos online. And I was saying, like, what is so wild is the more I talk about some of this stuff is the like whole anatomy of a vagina no one really knows, and you don't really realize it till you're in your 20s. And even like periods and just the whole sex education system just did not serve us at all. And as I'm like doing these videos and stuff, I'm realizing people are suddenly like, oh, I didn't know this. And like, it's okay to admit I didn't know it. Like no one else knew it either. So yeah, it's quite cool. Like,
and think about like, especially the more like female anatomy related topics, the amount of men that like really don't know or like have any understanding. I saw this TikTok about this guy who was like talking about basically like a menstrual cycle and how he didn't realize that it was like a week of ovulating and a week of like bleeding and then a week, like all this stuff. He's like, I didn't know it took that long. I'm like, well, of course you didn't. Who would have ever told you that? Nobody's gonna. I'm glad it's not just the US. It's like this. Clearly, this is universal. Like an international crisis.
Yeah, that's good. That's why we need to be talking about.
So bad, yeah. And it's like sex education at school. They split it into like gender, and I'm like, well, first of all, it's not just male and female anymore. So that completely like shoves people in the corner and makes them uncomfortable. But it's like the more we talk about it, the more it's like there are same-sex marriages. So if there's two men that have a child, they need to be able to say like, hey, this is a period, this was what happens. And like, it's so weird that they just think, oh yeah, we'll separate them. So then it becomes even more taboo. Like it's very odd.
It's like totally the opposite of what we should actually be doing.
Yeah.
And that's the really great thing I think about just this whole internet culture right now is everyone talking about these things and making them more normal. And you do that through comedy, and other people do it through like educational videos or whatever approach they want to take. But it's a good, well-rounded approach so we can actually talk and learn and not make things so weird all the time. It's normal.
I've had this like mantra for years and years that's like, it's not awkward unless you make it awkward. And I feel like you embody that as a human being. And I just feel like your videos should be part of the sex education.
Honestly, I'd love it.
Like schools need to be approaching you to come in and give talks, do sketches.
Yeah, the sex ed girl.
That's great.
I'd take it.
A legacy.
Okay, so our next question is, so you have all these amazing skits. So what is the creative process behind it for coming up with all of them?
It changes a lot. I mean, a lot of the time, I think it's anyone that's creative kind of keeps either their phone on their bedside table or like a notebook and pen, because the ideas come when you're relaxed. Like for me, most of my ideas will suddenly come to me when I'm in the shower, falling asleep, or a time that I don't want the ideas to come. If I sit down at my table and I'm like, right, I need to come up with an idea, it will not happen. It has to be quite natural. And it also is talking to people. Like I often call my friends and we'll just have a conversation and like, oh, you know, what happened when we were younger? Like what was awkward? Or like when you're dating, things come up a lot. So yeah, the ideas come from my own experience, but very sporadically. And then, yeah, it's kind of get it down. Usually I write scripts really quickly because as soon as I'm inspired, it will take like 5 minutes for me to get down like what I call the bones. So it's just like the outline of what I'm going to do. And then I'll go back and find where I could make it funny or find things that might add to it visually. And then I'll basically just film each character one by one and then get really, really into the edit, which is the worst part because by the time I finish editing it, I'm like, oh, it's rubbish. Don't want to put that out. And I'm like, oh, it sucks. Then I just have to send it to my friends and be like, is this as bad as I'm thinking it is? Or have I looked at it for too long? Which is just, yeah.
It's like when you look at a picture of yourself for too long and you're like, God, I'm ugly. I know. It doesn't work. That's nice that your friends are sort of like the people you can rely on to be the like constructive feedback loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how I do it without them because I need someone to just be like, you've gone too far, or no, this is great.
Are you doing this as a solo venture still, or do you have a team supporting you at this point?
So I do everything myself, but I have 2 agents who just get outsourced jobs and stuff. So yeah.
That's so exciting.
That's awesome.
I'm so excited for you. Wow.
So she's going to be giving lectures at major universities soon.
Doing the sex ed talks.
But they'll be funny and fun.
Yeah.
And that's
get this girl on SNL.
Yeah.
Honestly.
The dream.
Oh, you could totally do it. Oh so everyone always kind of wonders what the reality of being a full-time content creator is, whether or not you have a team behind you or you're doing it as a solo venture. So what does a typical day look like for you in this capacity?
So I'd say no day is the same, especially at the moment. It's annoying that I say it, but there's stuff I can't talk about at the moment, but I've got like 3 or 4 projects that I'm working on that are kind of nothing to do with social media, which take up a lot of my time. And I kind of dedicate a day to each of them. It's also because of what I do a lot of self-tapes and auditions. And then it's a lot of writing, a lot of kind of like reflecting on last videos. What can I improve on next time? Coming up with new ideas. Like it's very, sometimes it feels a bit weird because I think I'm so used to structure and knowing what I'm going to do every day. Whereas it's quite hard to plan what I'll do every day and how that will go into the next day. And yeah, it's quite strange.
Coming from Disney, where it's like structure beyond belief, you have total creative freedom now, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's so I'm so grateful for it. It's so nice to kind of be in control of your own schedule and not feel like you've got anyone to kind of answer to, or yeah, it does feel quite freeing.
Yeah, it takes a lot of self-motivation though and organization as well. I think that's what I struggle with the most is just staying on a schedule for
Yeah.
yourself.
And it's quite hard because I think it's really easy to put a lot of pressure on yourself, especially when you're doing it on your own, because the days where, like, if you get burnt out or if you kind of don't have an idea or you're not inspired one day, you kind of get into that zone of being like, oh my God, but if I don't do it, like, but I'm letting everyone down. I've got no one to pick up the slack. And like, I can't have a day where I do nothing. And you get like a lot of guilt as well, which I didn't really expect like that to happen when I went self-employed. I was always like, no, it'll be really easy and fun, but it's very stressful and it does get very overwhelming. But I kind of just try not to like focus on the fact that it's a lot of pressure, a lot of overwhelm, and just sort of be like, right, no, this is what I wanted to do forever and I'm doing it. So
yeah,
just like let it be.
Yeah. And thank goodness for, the video platforms that exist now. I feel like this was just made for you and it just didn't exist yet.
No,
a few years ago.
It's really weird actually looking back, because YouTube was always so long form. My sketches just didn't belong there at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a better space for it. I would love to talk about the creative burnout. When you feel it coming on, how do you deal with it? Are there some kind of like pragmatic ways that you can sort of like nip it in the bud before you feel like it's cyclical thing that you can't really get out of, whether it be writer's block or just coming up with the ideas in the first place?
I'm actually like, I think since December, I've probably been experiencing burnout. So I'm still in it right now. And it is very overwhelming because you kind of feel like it's never going to end, and it will end because we've experienced it before. And it's just, you just have to ride it out and it will pass and things will get better. But I always find, December was always going to be a burnout month because December is just the most hectic month if you're in content creation, especially like every brand wants to work with you, and you kind of take on too many things, not realizing how much work it will be, and then think, oh, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that. And I think most content creators probably go into that burnout mode in December, and then they have the 2 weeks break, and then coming back, it's very overwhelming. But when I've had the feeling of burnout coming before, it's always been my kind of way of coping, of taking myself away and like not staying. So like I've got my where my desk is, I will not go in that room. If I'm starting to feel like I'm not going to go in that room, I'm going to not sit on my computer. What I'll do is I'll go for a walk, I'll read a book, I'll watch something on TV. I'll just completely like take myself away from it as soon as I start to feel it, because it's not good for me to just sit there and try and push through it, because I know that my body's being like, no, we can't do this right now.
Right.
It does mean you have to pick up the slack later, but it's usually you're fresh to be able to do that. But I just think as soon as you can feel it, take yourself away, go for a walk, see your friends. Yeah, it's just good to get your head out of it.
Yeah, that sounds like a very intuitive process, and it's good that to listen to yourself and like listen to those cues, because they do come on as like kind of physical sometimes, or mentally you just are like not
it's horrible
yourself.
You just feel, I think it's like a lethargic, tired feeling, and just you can't focus very well. But also it's like boundaries. It's so difficult to have boundaries in a social media job, because it's not like you can go, oh, okay, I've shut off now. It's like, oh, but everything's still on my phone. So if I have my phone and I go on Instagram for personal use, I'm suddenly working again. And I'm like, it's really difficult. So at weekends for me, I do not post on social media. I don't scroll. I just like, if I do post, it's on my like close friend stories, and it's nothing that I actually invest my time in. It's just like, oh, it's done, close the phone, get rid of that. But before, I was basically working 7 days a week, every hour of being awake, because it's just, you just can't get out of that habit of doing it. But yeah, boundaries are important.
All right there.
Talk about a universal experience. I think all of us can relate to that feeling of burnout and just social media exhaustion. Like that's just so normal for people, whether they work in content or not. It's just, it's just a constant stream of
Yeah.
information, and it's great a lot of the time, especially if you follow people you resonate with. But I've been feeling that, like, my brain is just tired.
When like technology was so limited that you literally went to your job and then you left your job and you could not do anything for your job until the next time you went back into the office where your job happens. Like, you just
it's
left
such a different world.
Yeah. It's
Boundaries are key.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for talking about that, because I think we all needed to hear that.
I definitely needed to hear it.
Yeah, boundaries are very important.
For sure. This is sort of related to the concept of boundaries, but obviously now you have a very expansive reach on your platform. So what is your favorite part about the expansive reach and your least favorite part? Because there are pros and cons.
Yeah. I think my favorite part is the fact that I can connect with people from all over the world. And like, I've made some really nice friendships, because I'll always go through my DMs and I'll always reply to as many people as possible. And there's like the same group of people that I find a lot in my DMs, and they're so lovely and so supportive. And I just think there's such a warmth knowing that you've connected with someone that you've never met before. And it's also like, when I read through the comments on the videos and people like talk to each other about, you know, their experience or like relate to each other, and I just think, oh, it's so nice seeing that. But then like, there is the downside of it where it's, you know, you can't, I don't really get that much negativity, but when you do get it, because it's there on your phone, you can't help but see it. Like, you can see it and go, like, you know, rational mindset, I just won't take offense to it. It's someone who's obviously going through something themselves, and they're just kind of seeing this as a way to like project onto me. And I really try to get in the headspace of being like that, but it's very difficult. And it's usually people that don't follow me, that have seen my video through someone sharing it, that's not my normal audience, but reached them. And it's sort of like, I just didn't need to see that. And then you just sit there like, oh, I really believe what they've said, but you shouldn't. But yes, that's like the hardest part, which I think most people would say they kind of feel that.
I've noticed that about your comment sections. They're ultimately pretty positive, which I love that for you, because obviously we want all good things for you. But I mean, people really do take out their own personal insecurities, or like they like to blame or nitpick, and it's really awful. And it's just, I don't know, it's just such a public space to do that. And people need to like get a journal or something. Like,
a journal, not what I thought you were gonna say. I heard like, people just need to get a job.
Someone needs to get a job.
That
no,
too.
Just a journal.
Get a job, get a journal, get a hobby.
I love that.
Get a journal.
Yeah, you know, but we're just going to put all the good vibes for all the positive, nice people coming to you.
That's all we want.
That's it. So what has been the coolest opportunity that has come out of this whole growth spurt so far for you?
So one of the things I can't say, so the other thing I'll say is getting an agent, because I've wanted an agent forever. Because like, when you want to get into acting or anything like that, you're always told, you know, you need an agent, like you won't get anywhere without an agent. And I remember I used to like reach out to agents when I was at university and was looking for representation, because I was like desperate to be a TV presenter. And I just constantly got rejected, and they were like, you have no credits, you have nothing, that like, we can't represent you. Just because you have a university degree, like it's not going to happen. And then probably, I think it was like 3 months after I made that first video, I had a UK agent reach out and was like, we'd love to represent you. And then it just like, there was a few that, I think because everyone was looking at TikTok people at the time. So it was like an influx of that pandemic reach. So they were, there was a few like agents that reached out, and I've got this lovely agent in London, and then they connected me with a agent based in LA, and it's just like stuff that I never thought that would happen.
That makes my heart explode. I'm so happy for you.
I actually like cried when I got the email. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
That's
So that's like,
amazing.
it was a huge deal for me. I think other people would be like, that's not that cool. But I think when you've wanted it for so long and it's like they're like key to opportunities that I wouldn't have without them.
Right.
So yeah, to me, that's like the biggest deal.
Manifesting queen. I love it. Crazy. What did you study in school again? Was it acting or was it
No,
something
so it was broadcast journalism. So
Oh.
kind of like news. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're like Rory Gilmore, except for she was print journalism. I'm rewatching Gilmore Girls right now.
Is
I
that
love
too
it.
American?
Oh no, I love Gilmore Girls.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we have it here too.
Thank God.
I was gonna say, I think
Who
Gilmore
doesn't
Girls
love
has
it?
a little bit of a reach.
Awesome.
Huntsberger lived in London for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Since this has been something a lot of us in the Rediscover community have experienced in the last few years, what has been your experience moving on from Disney and kind of stepping into this whole new life and this whole new, other than the kind of becoming your own boss thing, just what has it been like for you overall?
So I worked in the UK Pavilion in the Rose and Crown as a bartender and a server on the CRP program. And yeah, so like as soon as the pandemic happened, first of all, I think all of us were quite, naive to the fact that we all thought we'd be back at work in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, yeah, it's fine. Everything will be great. Like, this is no big deal. And then, when I got that message that was like, you're going home, it kind of felt, I think because I was so lost in my life at that time, I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen. I was kind of like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I don't feel like there's any roots for me at home right now. I just don't know how this is going to work. And I deeply held on to that kind of thought that I'd be going back. And I kept being like, oh, in 3 months, they'll invite us back. Like, oh, in another month, they'll invite us back. And then it never happened. And I spent like the whole of 2020 in this really, I think everyone did, this really dark place where I kind of just thought, I've not done anything for my life here. Like, I really wasted, 26 years at the time, 27, however many years at the time. I was thinking, I've really wasted my life. And I kept thinking, oh, what if I took that route? What if I took that route? Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do this? And it was like very, very panicky. But ultimately, I think the best thing to have happened to me was the pandemic and was being sent home from Disney, because I wouldn't be doing what I was doing now if that didn't all happen. So yeah.
I mean, if you would have stayed at Disney, while it's amazing, the opportunities that have just flowed to you and completely magnetized to you would not have been able to in that space. Disney is such a magical time of our lives, but I do think a lot of us do get kind of tunnel vision on it. Like, we want to stay here forever. And and that is a very feasible path and a wonderful path. But outside of it, there is just so much room for growth.
I think there's something interesting though about how Disney, like, it does kind of create this tunnel vision because you're around people who are all kind of living the same life that you are. And it's such a different life than what most of the world experiences, like being in the entertainment industry or the theme park industry, or, having Disney World in your backyard all the time. But I think it also kind of, I mean, we watch like so many cast members become flight attendants, and it's like the running joke, like someone goes from Disney World to an airline. But I think it's because like, it's such a stimulating environment, but when we actually take the time to step away and kind of check in with ourselves after we've been there a while, we're like, okay, is this still holding up for me? Like, is this still what I want? And then I think a lot of, and Jess and I are totally going to get into this on another episode, but I think a lot of cast members do experience this sort of like you were saying, like a sense of feeling lost in their lives. Cause they're like, what, it's such an exhausting job. Whatever you're doing for really Disney requires so much emotional energy and physical energy that when you aren't working, you sort of just feel like, what am I doing? And that can become this like cyclical thing. If you feel like, well, I should stay here. Like, this is an amazing job. This is an amazing life. Like, I should want to keep holding on to this
dream job. I should be grateful. Yeah.
It's the lifestyle though, isn't it? The lifestyle is so appealing because you essentially are living and working where people go on vacation, and it feels really, I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't feel like real life, but there is an element of it not feeling like real life, especially on the program I was on. You kind of don't have the responsibility of taking care of your bills. Like your rent comes out of your paycheck, and you know, you live with your friends, you go out, and you don't really have any worries. So like, I think internationals and on those programs, it's very much I don't know, it's like a constant holiday, but you're working, but it feels so fun. So it does get to the point where you're like, what's real life like?
Yeah. What is real?
Yeah.
Nothing is real.
Yeah, you guys at the UK always have a good time, you know.
Definitely.
that's how Hayley and I met. I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but our mutual friend Lucy is introduced us. So I got to kind of tag along sometimes to some UK things, and it was always a good time.
So, things got a bit wild.
They did. I heard a lot of stories.
Always goes off in the World Showcase.
All right. So our last question for you in the main question segment of our episode is actually, I think it's kind of like a spiritual question. And the last time you and I got to talk was on your podcast, and we had a really amazing spiritual chat. I'll link it in the show notes if anybody wants to listen. And we even filmed that before Rediscover happened, which is cool. That was my first podcast experience. So thank you.
That's wild.
I love that.
I know you really like helped me dip my toe in the podcast pool. So thanks, Hayley.
I love that. You're welcome.
But I remember on your podcast, you literally said this, and when I watched it happen on social media, I freaked out. But you said that you wanted to manifest 1 million followers. And then I saw that happen before my eyes on social media. You actually did that in real time, which is amazing. And so many people talk about wanting to do that. But what does it feel like to be on the other side of that now? And what are the emotions and the feelings that come along with it?
Because it happened first on TikTok, and I remember every time, it was really weird actually, because the followers were coming in so thick and fast. I couldn't quite believe it, because TikTok is by its nature a very viral platform. So it's quite normal to grow with like 10,000 a day or like 20,000 a day, which sounds insane, but it's kind of how that platform works. And every time that kept jumping up, when it reached 100K, I was like, whoa, how has this happened? And then when it hit that 900,000, I remember being on the phone to one of my friends, and I was like, I literally can't get over, like 900,000 people were there. And then I think like 2 days later, it suddenly jumped up to 1 million. And I was like, how did that happen? It just felt, I think for like the whole time that was growing, there was just a huge amount of adrenaline in me. And I just remember getting, you know, when they say to like visualize and feel what it feels like, it constantly felt like that. I constantly had that excitement and like adrenaline going through my body as if something amazing was going to happen. And then when it happened, I just remember being like a bit overwhelmed by it and kind of like, I can't believe this has happened. But because the sounds so big-headed saying it, or I'm really egotistical, but because it went from 1 million to 2 million again within like, I think it was like a month or so. Wow. It was kind of really hard to be like, what's just happened? Yeah. And where it happened so quick, I don't think I really realized it had happened for like months later. But it was such an odd feeling. But also I think because I've seen so many people say like, once you hit this, you instantly want to reach the amount of followers. I think because I'd heard that so much, I was like, I need to like make sure I don't get in that mindset. So I really did make sure that when that happened, I was like, this is what I always wanted. Really take this in and don't be like, oh, when am I going to get to 3 million followers then? Which is really nice. Like I haven't had that. I really was quite worried I was going to get into that mindset of like constantly wanting more. But I think some people have it, but I think listening to so many people saying that happens, you kind of have to prepare yourself to know that it's just that instant gratification mindset of like the trickery. But
yeah,
I think
that's wild.
It's so cool. I think the natural law of the universe too is that when you're really grateful for what you have in the moment, like it just kind of naturally grows and continues to. So it's like this weird paradox where if you're really, really happy and appreciative, now it naturally grows and you get to those higher numbers just on your own, like, and you don't need to feel all that tension. And I think you're kind of in a great space for that. And I mean, even if you just stop today, like, you literally have hit your dream, and that's so cool.
It really is. And I think that's the thing, like, if you've had this goal for years and you've reached it, it's just, I don't see the point now of making like another, like, oh, I want to get to another big milestone in numbers. Like, what I sought out for, I've achieved, and I feel so happy with that. And I just feel if I was to start being like, right now I want, I don't know, like 10 million, I think I almost feel like it would just make me sad. It would bring me down and make me sort of put all my worth in that. Whereas the worth is like, people came and enjoyed what I did, and I got to this manifestation that I'd always wanted out of it, which is something I never thought would happen. So yeah.
And you know, it's so funny because it sounds crazy to say that, like, I want 1 million followers. And then when you look back though, like, you've set that intention for so long, it just orchestrated so seamlessly. Like, you going home from Disney, you just having that random thought about brain and bringing that to life. The platforms were there, the TikTok and Reel engagement, you were there at the right time. Like, you followed all these intuitive impulses and it just came together. And that's my favorite part about this whole thing, is hearing the intention and then looking back on the orchestration. It is such a cool full circle moment.
And you just have to trust the process. And I think I remember being in Epcot with my friend Joe, and just before I came back on that second program, TikTok had reached out to me when they were Musically, and they were like rebranding to TikTok, and they said, we want you to, because I was doing the YouTube videos at the time, they were like, we want you to like make I think it was 10 videos on TikTok and we'll pay you X amount of money. Like, here's the contract, blah, blah, blah. I never did it. I was going through like a bit of a down period, and I was like, I just don't want to do this. And I was like, what even is Musically and TikTok? And then I remember saying, like, Joey was showing me all these TikTok videos, and I was like, why didn't I do it? I was like, why didn't I? I really missed my opportunity. But it kind of goes to show, like, what is meant for you will not pass you by. Like, I could have done it then, but I didn't. But it worked out, and it happened when it was meant to happen, rather than, you know, when I was in America and wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah.
The universe was like, hey, let's try it now. No, we're gonna try it now. And it was just
so strange. Yeah,
it's like totally aligned to you, and you can see that in two different instances.
Yeah, I think that's part of the key though, is being able to say like, oh, this isn't right for me right now, and I'm just gonna move on and focus on whatever feels right for me right now. I think our generation and the one below us gets a lot of flack for feeling out a situation or like following that intuition. But I would argue that, like you said, what's meant for you will not pass you. And you probably could have done it and success would have come if you had done it the first time. But I think it's that much sweeter because, like you said, it just came out of this season of feeling lost and the pandemic and all of those other things. And now it feels like the milestone is so much more of a milestone, like an actual marker.
Yeah,
100%.
Awesome. So fun. Well, that wraps up our questions for Hayley, but we do, of course, have our rapid fire section to round out the episode. So we have, as always, a section of rapid fire questions specifically for Hayley, and then our rapid fire questions we ask all of our Rediscover guests. So Kristen, would you like to kick us off with the rapid fires?
I would. Favorite one of your characters and why?
Period. Because I kind of feel like she embodies what a period is.
Period is also my favorite character of yours. So I'm so excited that you said that.
Yeah, she's definitely my favorite.
She makes me feel a little better when I'm going through my own, you know?
Yeah. You got her right there.
Thank God. Your favorite video that you've ever made?
The introduction to Vagina.
Oh my gosh.
I had so much fun filming that one.
That's an important one too. I really feel like I'm just going to show if I ever have a daughter, I'm just going to like find these and like, just like brush the dust off TikTok at that point in life. Be like,
here we are.
like an old book. Like, here you go. Everything you need to know right here. Okay. What is the most fun part of the video creation process?
I think the bit where I don't know if you're allowed to say brainstorming anymore. So I'll say mind mapping, but the bit where you're like, I'm coming up with the ideas, and like the list of before I script is so huge, but it's just like, oh, this happens and this happens. But I really enjoy that.
That's fun. You can't say brainstorm anymore? Is that
apparently it's like,
is that how
because people have seizures, but I kind of don't think it's the same. I don't know. I never understood it at school, but we were always told we couldn't say it. But I was like, I'll honor it. But
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of like the term mind mapping better because the visual is like, I am actually like creating this big like topographical thing that has like layers and texture and like dimension to it, as opposed to just like brainstorming. To me, I like visualize like a cyclone in my head.
Yeah,
which
and
is
it's like,
kind of how I feel all the
messy.
time. Yeah.
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 We may embody that. Thanks.
Taking that on.
There you go.
What is your most iconic costume piece?
I kind of think, I don't know if it's Brain's jumper or Period's coat.
I was gonna say
one of the two.
I think the coat.
I think it's the coat.
Yeah, people always like message me and they've seen someone wearing a similar coat and they're like, oh, look who's out. I'm like, how has everyone got this coat?
It's amazing.
Where did you get it from in the first place? Do you remember?
I think it was Abercrombie and Fitch, but I haven't worn it out since.
Yeah,
I can't anymore.
I can't.
Okay, the weirdest moment or place you've ever thought of a new video idea?
Oh, I don't actually know. I guess like the shower, but I think that's quite normal for people. But maybe when driving, I don't think I've had many like weird. Oh, on the toilet. Yeah, that always happens.
Those are all very relaxed places.
Yeah. I just think of the. Are you familiar with Eliza Schlesinger?
Oh yeah, she the blonde comedian.
Yes. She has a bit where she talks about like what women are thinking about during sex, and she's like thinking about like, and then we're gonna go to the farmer's market and blah, blah, blah. She's like planning her day and like thinking of the groceries she needs to buy. And I'm like, I am so glad that like clearly women are just we're always thinking about like what's coming, or just like 17 ideas at once. I'm like, oh, I feel so validated right now.
Yeah.
Next question. What is your favorite social media platform?
TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like the least comparison. You know, when like you go on Instagram, you're comparing yourself constantly. I feel like TikTok's it's less filtered, more real, and it doesn't make you feel bad.
Yeah. I really hope it keeps that good authenticity factor in the long run, because it's just like a safe space. You can just kind of go chill over there, you know?
It's just funny. Like it's funnier.
Yeah, it's so much funnier. People just like say what they want on there, which I love.
Yeah. I just feel like I open TikTok if I want to laugh. Like if I'm like, oh, I've had a hard day, I just really want to laugh like soon.
Yeah.
I just open TikTok.
I know,
and it takes like 42 seconds and you find something that's going to make you laugh.
Yeah. That's a good space.
Okay. Last rapid fire for the Disney crowd. What is your favorite item on the menu at Rose and Crown?
The vegan bangers and mash, if they still have it.
Oh,
I love it.
I didn't know they had a vegan bangers and mash.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like the Beyond sausage. The gravy's amazing. It's great. Try it. It's so good.
I haven't been to Rose and Crown in a minute, so
you'll have to go.
Yeah. These are actionable tips.
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah, I need to go.
Scoop.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have our 4 final rediscover rapid fire questions, and we're always so excited to hear everyone's answers to these. So the first one is, Hayley, what does living authentically mean to you?
I think just like living your truth, which is the same as living authentically, but just being yourself and not filtering your life.
Which is actually easier.
Yeah, it's so much easier.
Less work.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, hey, this is me. And I'm not going to pretend to be something else because it's going to please you. Like, I'm just going to do it because I'm only going to live once. I'd rather just be me.
Right. So be TikTok instead of Instagram is what we're
Exactly. That's it.
If you could travel to one place anywhere in the world right now, where would it be and why would you go?
Ooh, I think I'd go right now to, I'd say New York, but I know it's cold right now.
So cold.
It's very cold.
Yeah, maybe Hawaii. Maybe I'd just go to Hawaii. I love
Ooh.
Hawaii. I know it's going to be warm. I know it's just going to be a good time, isn't it?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The vibe is always
Relaxing.
right.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
like just have it so well over there. It's so, yeah, you just feel at peace there. All about the peaceful vibes.
That's how I want to go to Hawaii.
Well, anyways, now that we've all left our cold
None of us are here right now.
You're like,
next question. What is one thing you would be doing every day if your life were free of limitations?
I feel like I'm really self-conscious in public. So I think like going for a run, I hate doing, especially in the daytime. And then I can't go at night because it just feels unsafe. Probably like going for a run in the daytime and not feeling self-conscious would be great.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That is a good one. I think I feel that way too, actually. I don't know if I realized it until you said something, but
I'm constantly like, oh, people will see me and they think I can't run.
yeah. Like
So
my
dumb.
form isn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
That's a
I'll
good
look,
one.
like too exhausted and they'll be like, she's unfit. Constantly worried.
Yeah. Which we know like people aren't thinking about us nearly as much as we think that they're thinking about us.
Yeah, we're like,
But
yeah, I'm the main character.
Yeah, right, but it's still so
Everyone's
easy
Yeah.
to like get in that headspace. And like if someone stops to like tie their shoe, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, they're looking at me. Do I have sweat
Like,
on my back?
Is there something on me? What's going on?
Yeah.
They don't care. They're living their life being the main character too.
Yeah.
We're all the main character.
Yeah.
No sidekicks. What is one childlike quality that you think would be beneficial if adults utilized it in their daily lives?
I think just like doing what you want in public. You know, like kids would just like break out into a little dance or like go up to a random person and say something. Like we do not do that as adults. Like we are so confined in ourselves, and it goes back again to the kind of like main character vibes. But yeah, it'd be so much better if we all could just kind of let loose in public, because I just think everyone would be a bit more like relaxed, not so uptight. Yeah, it would really help.
That'd be so funny.
I
would
agree.
love that. It'd be like a movie all the time.
It really would.
I think that's how Disney makes people feel. I think that's
Yeah.
why people go, but I think that's also why we all wanted to work there, was because there is this sense of like the normal rules don't apply here. Like it's
Yeah.
normal to wear like sparkly Minnie Mouse ears and carry a
Mhm.
balloon around when you're 25 years old, or
Yeah.
break out in a little dance like in the
Mhm.
middle of Main Street. It's just normal.
Yeah.
It's so normal. Then you go out
Yeah.
in like sparkly like leggings and a pair of like mini ears here. People be like, what are you doing?
They'd be like, oh, poor thing.
Yeah,
She's not
doing
okay.
well. Yeah, it wouldn't go
So
down
true.
the same.
It's so true.
On that note, so to wrap it all up, Hayley, where can our Rediscover audience connect with you, and should they be on the lookout for anything that you're excited about?
So you can find me on TikTok at Hayley Georgia Morris, or you can find me on Instagram, Hayley Morris 3. And the only thing I'll say is stay tuned early February.
Ooh,
That's so
Ooh,
soon.
mysterious.
soon.
So excited.
Well, this episode is coming out January 25th, so stay tuned in the
next week,
couple
the week
weeks.
after.
Not long, yeah, like a week or two. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm hoping a lot of our Rediscover fam heads over to follow you, because you guys will have a great time. You really will.
Aw.
Hayley is like sunshine and so funny, and we're just so excited that we got to spend time with you, because it's been a minute, you know.
It has, and this has
haven't-
been so fun. Like honestly, it's been so nice.
I'm so glad.
Oh,
I know,
It's
I've-
been really good.
Feel like the pandemic, I feel like I saw everybody so recently, and now it's been 2 years. So it's so nice to reconnect with everyone, even if it's on Zoom for a while, and especially in the podcast format, because you actually have time to chill. Relax.
Just have a conversation. Yeah, it's nice.
A conversation.
Really
Are you still doing your podcast at all?
I'm not, but again, stay tuned. But that's not February. I don't know what the situation with that is, but stay tuned.
Hayley's podcast is great if you want to just listen to the old ones. They're all inspiring and fun. So, but
we get a little ego boost on here.
I know. It's just like a big Hayley.
We're here for that. We will link all of the places you can find Hayley in the show notes below, as well as her podcast if you want to go back and check out some of the older episodes, because there is an episode with our girl, Jessica Faye, for you to listen to. So we'll link that for you too.
Perfect. Well, gals, that was fun.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been
Hayley,
so great.
It was so great to see you and chat, and we're just so happy for you and proud of you and rooting for you every day. So
if you want to have a laugh, go find Hayley. I'm gonna go.
Or if you want to learn about sex,
that too.
Both are very important things. Very important things.
Educational and humorous. You cannot
and
do that combo.
You can't. We like to laugh while we learn.
Always.
I'm gonna go make a reservation for Rose and Crown so I can get some vegan bangers and mash.
Yes, do it. You won't regret it.
Sounds perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We are back and we are on our normal schedule again. So we will talk to you in 2 weeks on Tuesday with another fun episode. So stay tuned and come on back.
Brand new theme,
brand new month, brand new year. Thanks again, Hayley.
Thank you.
And talk to you all next time.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Rediscover.
If you haven't already subscribed, hit that button and join the Rediscover fam.
If you're like us and you have opinions about everything, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. Your positivity inspires our creativity, and we love hearing from you.
Join us every other Tuesday for brand new episodes full of rediscovery.
And each month has its own unique theme, so be sure to catch them all.
Follow us on Instagram at positively.kristen and at jessicafay508.
And check out Jess's blog at theroadjusttraveled with 1L.com.
Until next time,
bye!